He was on the ground before he said a word. Face pressed into concrete, arms twisted, badge thrown in the dirt. 2 officers, 1 taser, and a little girl in a school uniform screaming. "That's my dad." Nobody cared. Not when they saw his skin. Not when they saw his face. Not even when the badge said federal agent. Because in this neighborhood, a black man sitting alone means one thing: threat. And by the time they learned who he really was, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a career-ending disaster. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. A Tuesday morning in Greenville, North Carolina. Clear sky. School buses crawling through neighborhoods. Parents on porches. And at 7:42 a.m., a black man in a gray suit sat quietly on a park bench beside an elementary school. His name was Jordan Miles. He wore glasses, polished shoes, and a Justice Department lapel pin. Not that anyone looked close enough to notice. He wasn't there to draw attention, just waiting for his daughter to finish breakfast before class. The moment happened like a switch. A white patrol car slowed, paused, then pulled sharply onto the sidewalk. 2 officers stepped out, both white, both young. "Hey, sir." One of them barked before Jordan even turned his head. He looked up slowly, calm, controlled. "Morning. Something wrong?" "We got a report of a suspicious individual near the school." "You match the description," said Officer Trent Cooper, one hand already hovering near his belt. Jordan stood, keeping his hands visible. He had done this dance before. "I'm just waiting for my daughter. She's inside having breakfast." "You got ID?" "It's in my jacket pocket," he said slowly. The second officer, Fields, circled behind him. "Hands where I can see them, sir." No sudden movements. Inside the school window, a group of kids watched. Among them, Ava Miles, 9 years old, ponytail, pink backpack. Her face changed the second she saw what was happening. She ran. Out the side door. Across the grass. "Socks and dew. Dad." The shout pierced everything. Jordan turned his head. Too fast. "Don't move." Cooper lunged. Jordan dropped to his knees, hands in the air. "My ID. Please. Just check the badge. Inside pocket. Right side." But no one listened. Cooper tackled him hard. Grass and dirt flew. Ava screamed as her father's face hit the ground. "Stop. Stop. That's my dad. He's not a stranger." Her voice cracked. Other children had come to the window now. One teacher ran outside, too late to stop anything. Jordan's badge slipped from his jacket in the struggle. It landed open in the dirt. Federal agent, Department of Justice. Fields didn't notice. He had his knee on Jordan's back now. Jordan said nothing. He'd been trained for moments like this. But nothing in training prepared him for the sound of his daughter crying inches away, helpless. "He's got a weapon," Fields shouted suddenly, though no weapon was found. "No, I don't." Jordan gritted through the pressure on his spine. "Stay down." Cooper screamed, cuffing him hard enough to bruise. The teacher stepped closer, hands up. "Officers, wait, please. That man's a parent. He comes here every week." They ignored her. One of the officers finally looked down, saw the badge, paused, but only for a second. "This could be fake," Cooper muttered. "We'll verify downtown." Jordan was lifted by both arms, wrists tight in steel. His daughter reached out. He couldn't even raise a hand to comfort her. And no one stopped the patrol car as it pulled away. Not the teacher, not the parents, not even the principal now rushing out. Nobody. Because to them, he was already guilty. The ride to the station was quiet. Jordan sat cuffed in the back seat of the patrol car, knees bent, wrists sore. Through the window, he could still see the school disappearing behind them. Ava stood near the entrance. A teacher gripped her shoulders, trying to comfort her. She didn't cry. She just stared. Officer Cooper adjusted the rearview mirror. "What were you doing sitting like that, huh?" "Just watching kids." Jordan said nothing. "You fit a report, that's all. Someone called it in." Jordan turned his head slowly. "I was on a bench, waiting for my daughter. My badge was in my pocket." "Don't get smart with me," Cooper snapped. "We'll see if it's real." Fields chuckled from the passenger seat. "It's always, I'm a federal agent, once they're in cuffs." Jordan stared out the window. He remembered something his mentor once told him at Quantico. "The hardest part won't be the job. It'll be watching people treat your credentials like fiction." This was that moment. Back at the station, they didn't uncuff him. They walked him through the side entrance, avoiding the lobby. Jordan saw the looks. One officer raised an eyebrow. Another quickly looked away. No one said a word. They put him in holding room 3. Concrete walls. One metal chair. A camera in the corner. Still cuffed. Jordan breathed slowly. His briefcase was gone. His phone too. No Miranda warning. No formal charges. Just suspicion and silence. He had handled terrorists, bank fraud rings, counterintelligence ops. But never this. He waited. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. A woman in uniform entered. Lieutenant Sandra Green. White. Late 40s. Commanding tone. She held a folder. Mr. Miles. Or should I say agent, depending on whether this checks out. Jordan stayed silent. Green placed the folder on the table and sat across from him. Says here you're with the Department of Justice. Supervisory level. Why didn't you say that earlier? He looked her dead in the eye. I did. I told your officers. Repeatedly. She opened the folder. Inside was a scanned ID. His credentials. A copy of his badge. A federal clearance document. Her face shifted. Why were you near a school? My daughter eats breakfast there before class. I wait for her. Every Tuesday and Thursday. The report said. What report? Jordan's voice cut through. Green hesitated. Flipped a page. Anonymous call. Claimed there was a man watching children. Description. Black male in a suit. Sitting alone. Jordan didn't flinch. That's all it takes now? Green didn't answer. She closed the folder. Stood. I'll speak with the officers. And the cuffs? She paused. Then unlocked them herself. The steel dropped to the table with a sharp clank. You're free to go. Jordan rubbed his wrists. Am I? Because as he walked out, every officer in that hallway looked at him, but not one looked him in the eyes. They had already made up their minds. Ava didn't speak on the way home. She held Jordan's hand in the backseat of the Uber, her eyes fixed on the floor mat. Every few seconds, she wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. Not crying. Just erasing the day. Jordan sat beside her, jaw locked. He had picked her up straight from school. No apology from the precinct. No outreach. No explanation to the child who watched her father dragged away in cuffs. Just silence. When they got home, Jordan fixed Ava a grilled cheese. She barely touched it. I want to go to sleep, she whispered. It was barely 4 p.m. He tucked her in, closed the door, and finally let his body collapse into the hallway wall, backsliding down to the floor. Eyes closed. This wasn't the first time he had been profiled. But this was different. They knew now, knew who he was. And still nothing. He checked his phone. No messages from the precinct. No formal report filed. No, we're sorry for the misunderstanding. But there was one message. From D.C. Call me immediately. He stood up. Dialed. Special Agent Marla Kim answered on the second ring. Jordan. What the hell happened? He paused. How much do you know? Enough. Your badge flagged a detainment alert. No charges. No Miranda. And the local PD marked it. Resolved. Resolved? Huh? You want me to escalate? He hesitated. His instincts screamed yes. But something deeper held him back. A memory. His daughter's face. Not yet. Marla exhaled. Jordan, this isn't the first time a local department's crossed the line. But we don't sweep federal IDs into holding cells without oversight. Tell that to Cooper and Fields. Do you want internal affairs on them? Jordan stared out the window. I want their silence documented. I want every body cam pulled. Every radio call logged. Quietly. Copy that. They hung up. 2 hours later, Jordan sat at his desk. He didn't open his laptop. He just stared at the edge of the wood, fingers drumming, mind racing. A knock. Ava, can I sleep with you tonight? He nodded. She curled beside him in silence. Just like when she was little. He stroked her braid and thought. They didn't see a man. They didn't see a father. They saw a profile. And he knew something else. If he didn't act, this would happen to someone else's daughter. Someone who wouldn't be there to pick her up. By Thursday morning, something felt off. Jordan walked Ava to school, same as always. But this time, every parent seemed to glance a little too long. Teachers waved, but not like before. And Principal Heller, usually cheerful, avoided eye contact altogether. In the office, Jordan asked calmly, Has anything been sent home about Tuesday? The secretary froze, then smiled too quickly. I don't believe so. He nodded, left, and returned home. On his doorstep was a yellow envelope. Inside, a formal letter. From the Greenville Police Department. As of this week, Agent Jordan Miles is considered a person of interest in an open community investigation, pending internal clearance of identification. No apology. No correction. Just escalation. He reread the phrase, person of interest. The message was clear: back down, disappear. His phone rang. It was his supervisor in D.C. Jordan. Greenville's PD just filed an inquiry with the Bureau. They're questioning the legitimacy of your badge. They what? Claimed it might have been expired. Or possibly fabricated. Jordan didn't respond. I've already confirmed your credentials are active. But they sent an official memo. It's public record now. Jordan clenched his jaw. And what's DC's stance? For now, we're letting you handle this. Unless you request intervention. He hung up. So now they were trying to rewrite the facts. They didn't just want to erase their mistake. They wanted to reverse it. Jordan opened his laptop, pulled every statute he'd ever used on police overreach. Every case he logged where local departments retaliated after wrongful detainment. He bookmarked 5, started typing, and stopped because Ava's voice echoed from her room. She was on the phone with someone. No, my dad didn't do anything. They took him anyway. Yes, really. A pause. Some kids said their parents don't want them coming over anymore. Jordan froze. He closed the laptop, walked into the living room, sat on the couch. Everything they'd built, safety, normalcy, was being torn down. Quietly, strategically. By that evening, he received an email. Subject: Internal Alert, Community Risk Level Revised. It was a digital copy of a neighborhood safety notice. His name was never mentioned, but the wording was unmistakable. Recent incidents have prompted increased monitoring near Greenville Elementary. Parents are advised to report unfamiliar activity in public areas, especially males loitering near school zones. He stared at the screen, blood pulsing in his ears. They weren't backing down. They were coming. And still, no lawyer, no ally, no apology. He was alone, and they were making sure he stayed that way. Jordan showed up unannounced. Greenville Police Department. Friday, 11:13 a.m. Pressed shirt. Badge visible. Calm face. At the front desk, the receptionist blinked twice when she read his name. "One moment, please." She vanished down a hallway. Jordan stood still, hands behind his back. He could feel eyes on him from the nearby hallway mirror, officers walking past, slowing down, whispering. 3 minutes later, a man stepped forward. Thick mustache. Gray tie. Sergeant Emmett Rourke. "Agent Miles, you weren't expected." "That's the point," Jordan said evenly. Rourke motioned. "Let's speak in my office." The hallway was silent. Every desk they passed had suddenly become very busy. Nobody looked up. Inside the office, Rourke closed the door. "Before you say anything, the matter from Tuesday is under review. If you're here to demand something, I'm here to understand how my badge was ignored, and why I've now received 2 documents implying I'm being watched." Rourke sat slowly. "Look, I'm not saying everything was handled perfectly, but you have to understand, tensions are high. We get calls all the time. If an officer hesitates, kids could be in danger. I was sitting on a bench, alone, in a school zone." Jordan leaned forward. "Do you hear yourself?" Rourke didn't blink. "We've dealt with men who use uniforms to blend in. I'm not saying that's you, but that's what Officer Cooper was thinking. Then Cooper should have looked in my bag. Or read the badge, not slam me to the ground in front of my daughter." Rourke's tone sharpened. Cooper acted on instinct. Instinct? Or bias? The silence between them tightened. Rourke exhaled. "What is it you want, Agent?" "A written acknowledgement of unlawful detainment. A statement clearing my name from any community risk, watch list, and body cam footage. Full, unedited." Rourke chuckled once, without humor. "You think this is DC? That's not how we do things here." Jordan stood. "Then we'll do it my way." He walked out, back through the hallway, past silent officers. One of them, a young black officer near the lockers, met his gaze for half a second, and nodded. Outside, the sun was too bright. Jordan didn't go home. He drove to the regional courthouse, not to file a complaint, but to retrieve something from the clerk's records, something that would remind everyone, quietly, legally, that he wasn't just a name. He was authority. He just hadn't used it yet. Saturday morning, the clerk handed him a sealed envelope. Inside, a certified copy of Greenville PD's Federal Cooperation Agreement, a rarely used document, signed 8 years ago after the department received a DOJ technology grant. Jordan had helped write that grant. It included one quiet clause. Any incident involving federal personnel must be reported to the DOJ Office of Integrity within 72 hours. It had been 96. He folded the paper and slid it into a leather folder. No words. No threats. Just paper. At home, Ava was at the kitchen table coloring. Jordan kissed the top of her head, then stepped into his home office. Closed the door. Opened his laptop. He began writing. Not an official report. Not yet. Instead, a timeline. 7:41 a.m. Jordan Miles seated at park bench outside Greenville Elementary. 7:47 a.m. Ava Miles spotted father through cafeteria window. 7:49 a.m. Officer Cooper initiated contact. No visible cause. 7:50 a.m. Jordan verbally identifies himself. No verification attempted. 7:52 a.m. Physical force used. Badge ignored. Child witness detainment. 8:26 a.m. Arrival at precinct. No Miranda. No report. He attached photos. Scans. The envelope from the precinct. The community alert bulletin. He saved it as Greenville_obstruction draft_V1. Then he encrypted it. At noon, he got in the car. Not to visit the police, but to walk into the county media records office. The man behind the desk looked up nervously when Jordan showed his badge. I'm requesting any surveillance logs from outside Greenville PD's west side entrance on April 2nd between 8 and 9 a.m. The man hesitated. That area is under a public-facing lens. I'm not sure we retain. Jordan interrupted. You do. I installed the system in 2019 as part of the federal compliance package. It has a 96-hour rolling archive. I'll wait. 15 minutes later, he had a flash drive in hand. Back home, he reviewed it. The camera had no audio, but the footage was enough. Two things were visible. 1. Officer Cooper glancing at Jordan's badge, then turning away. 2. Officer Fields throwing something toward the trash, a document, possibly Jordan's ID scan. He zoomed in, paused, saved stills. Now he had visuals. They wouldn't prove guilt, but they'd crush the narrative of mistaken identity. At 6:14 p.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. You're pushing too hard, a voice said. Male. Calm. Older. Jordan didn't respond. Just walk away, agent. You made your point. The line went dead. He stared at the screen for a long time, then reopened the file, and renamed it. Greenville_obstruction criminal_V2. Monday, 8:03 a.m. Chief Nora Langley of the Greenville Police Department opened her inbox. She skimmed past spam and calendar alerts until her eyes stopped. From jordan.miles@doj.gov. Subject, formal notice of federal inquiry, delayed reporting, case hashtag 42117, GP. Inside, a detailed timeline, legal statutes, a copy of the surveillance footage request, and a one-line notice at the end. Pursuant to DOJ Grant Condition Number 12, a failure to disclose this incident within 72 hours constitutes breach of agreement. Her coffee stopped halfway to her lips. She reread the subject. Then again. By 8:17, 3 lieutenants were in her office. Who signed off on the delayed log? She barked. Silence. One spoke quietly. Rourke thought it would blow over. Langley's voice dropped. It won't. Meanwhile, Jordan stood in line at Ava's school. He didn't look around. Didn't smile. Just signed her in. The front desk woman blinked when she saw his name. Oh, Mr. Miles. The principal wanted to. He'll wait, Jordan said calmly. Ava peeked up at him. Are we okay? He looked down at her. We're better than okay. At 10:02 a.m., Officer Trent Cooper received a calendar notification. Mandatory administrative hearing. Internal review board. 11 o'clock. He blinked, then checked his messages. Nothing. He opened the department's internal site. His name was listed. Under a new section, pending investigations, external oversight, federal. His stomach turned. By 11:43, Jordan received the first email. We acknowledge receipt of your notice and confirm an internal investigation has been initiated. At the bottom, a signature. N. Langley, Chief of Police. He didn't smile. Didn't relax. He just typed one sentence in reply. Noted. Further escalation paused, pending outcome. That night, Ava asked, Are they in trouble? He tucked her in. They're under review. What does that mean? He thought for a moment. It means they finally have to explain themselves. She nodded, then whispered, I didn't think grown-ups had to do that. Jordan sat beside her quietly. They usually don't, he said. But this time they do. Outside their window, a patrol car drove by. Slower than usual. He watched the taillights disappear into the trees. Then went to his desk. Opened the file. and started preparing version 3, because he knew the first response was never the last. Tuesday, 7:55 a.m. Officer Jared Field sat in his parked cruiser, palms sweating. Internal Affairs had emailed him the night before. Quietly. No subject line. No explanation. Just a single sentence. Please report to room B, 107, 9 a.m. He hadn't slept. His partner, Cooper, hadn't returned his calls. Fields checked his mirror. His own reflection looked back like a stranger. He hadn't meant for it to go that far. Cooper was the lead. He just followed protocol. Mostly. He tried to tell himself that. But the image kept coming back. Jordan's face in the grass. The girl screaming. The badge on the ground. At 9:07, Fields sat across from a federal compliance officer. The room was cold. Quiet. Every sound echoed. The man across the table pushed a folder forward. Inside, stills from the security footage. Body cam screenshots. Timestamps. And Jordan's badge. Visible in frame. Fields stared at it. The agent spoke calmly. Is there anything you'd like to clarify about the moment this item was seen and ignored? Fields swallowed. Cooper told me not to say anything. Said it was probably fake. And you? A pause. I didn't believe him. But I didn't stop him either. Silence. The agent closed the folder. That'll be all for now. Across town, at City Hall, a second letter arrived. Addressed to the mayor's office. Subject: pending compliance violation, DOJ grants suspension review. The city attorney read it twice. If the review confirmed misconduct, Greenville PD would lose access to all federal funds for 2 years. Technology grants. Equipment. Training stipends. Gone. The mayor called the police chief directly. What the hell is going on in your department? Langley didn't answer. Because that same hour, a whistleblower report landed in her inbox. An anonymous officer. Handwritten. 1 page. It listed multiple incidents from the past 2 years. Unlawful stops. Racial profiling. Suppressed footage. The last line hit like a hammer. We didn't just arrest the wrong man. We made it a pattern. At home, Jordan closed his laptop slowly. He had just received a blind-copied email from a civilian lawyer in town. Subject: I'd like to talk, off the record. It was beginning. People were distancing themselves. Not from him. From the department. Ava walked in. You working again? Just finishing. She climbed into his lap, rested her head against his chest. Did they say sorry yet? He looked past her. Eyes focused. Not yet. Will they? He didn't answer. Because apologies were cheap. And this time, he wasn't after words. He was after consequences. Wednesday, 2:42 p.m. Officer Trent Cooper sat in an empty hearing room. No badge. No belt. Just a clipboard with a list of charges. Misuse of force. Suppression of evidence. Failure to report detainment of a federal agent. But the part that scared him most wasn't what was printed, it was what was missing. His partner's name. Fields had flipped. Cooper stared at the door. When it finally opened, he expected another official. Instead, it was Chief Langley. She looked 10 years older than last week. They're requesting your resignation. By end of day. Cooper clenched his jaw. I was following instinct. Langley stared at him coldly. You were following ego. She dropped a sealed letter in front of him. They're revoking your post certification. You won't wear a badge again in this state. He didn't respond. He couldn't. She left without another word. At City Hall, a second emergency meeting had begun. The DOJ's recommendation was clear. Federal funding suspended pending full departmental audit. The mayor's face was pale. And the footage, it's already been submitted to the press? The city attorney nodded. By the department itself. Chief Langley knew she couldn't bury it. And the agent? Hasn't spoken to anyone. Not publicly. Not even a complaint. He just filed reports. The mayor leaned back. Quiet men are the ones who break empires. At home, Jordan watched the news in silence. No headlines. Just a quiet segment. A reporter outside the precinct, summarizing disciplinary action. Ava was asleep on the couch beside him. He muted the TV, then checked his email. One message stood out. From Chief Nora Langley. Subject: Statement of regret. Internal misconduct. He opened it. It was 3 sentences long. We acknowledge the grave mishandling of your detainment. Internal actions have been taken. You were right to hold us accountable. He read it once, then closed the tab. No reply. Instead, he clicked open the final version of his file. Greenville _obstruction final _V10. Attached was a summary, evidence archive, and list of federal recommendations. He clicked send. Not to the press, not to the public, but to one inbox. Office of Civil Rights, DOJ. Because this was never about one arrest. It was about a structure that made it normal. The next morning, a formal review board began assembling in Washington. Jordan didn't attend. He sat with Ava at their kitchen table, making pancakes. Her laugh filled the room for the first time in days. Can I add chocolate chips? He smiled. Only if you flip them. She grinned, reaching for the spatula. And outside their window, no patrol car passed that morning. For the first time all week, the street was quiet. A week later, Jordan stood alone in front of the Greenville City Mediation Board. No tie, no badge, just documents. Across from him, 3 board members. 1 city attorney. 1 empty chair, Chief Langley's. She had resigned that morning. Jordan placed a folder on the table. I'm not here for headlines, he said quietly. I'm here for policy change. They listened. He handed over a printed recommendation, 6 pages. Mandatory bias retraining. Independent Civilian Review Board. Federal compliance check-ins quarterly. And 1 final clause. Any federal personnel detained without cause will trigger automatic investigation, binding under grant law. The attorney cleared his throat. This goes beyond local policy. Jordan nodded. Then you'd better start rethinking what local means. They said nothing. Just took the folder. Back home, he didn't turn on the news. Didn't check the mail. He walked Ava to school. Stood beside the bench where it all started. She turned to him. You're not scared anymore? He knelt to her level. I was never scared. Then why didn't you say something sooner? He looked at her. Really looked. Because too many of us were raised to ask for permission before we fought back. She blinked. But you didn't ask. He smiled. No, I didn't. She ran into the building, ponytail bouncing. He stood there a long time, just breathing. Weeks passed. The town moved on quietly, cautiously. Some officers resigned. Others transferred. But no one forgot. Especially not the parents. Especially not the children who watched it happen. Jordan never spoke at a podium. Never joined a protest. Never filed a lawsuit. But every Thursday, he walked Ava to school. And every time he passed that bench, he left something behind. A folded piece of paper. Sometimes a statute. Sometimes a court ruling. Sometimes just a single phrase. You don't get to erase this. And then one morning, that bench was gone. Replaced by a plaque. In recognition of accountability. In honor of every voice forced to stay silent. Until one didn't. No name. No date. Just silence. The kind that speaks for itself. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.